Joining me now is Democratic Congresswoman Sara Jacobs of California. She's on the Foreign Affairs and Armed Services Committee and has previously worked at the United Nations and State Department. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Before I get to the weapons, I do want to ask you about the reports we're hearing out of Mariupol, these investigations into whether the Russians are using chemical weapons there. Your reaction to these reports?
You know, obviously the reports that we're hearing are terrible and very concerning. I know that we're still working on getting confirmation, but to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me if the Russians were to resort to using these chemical weapons. It's the same kind of tactics we saw them use in Syria, and we know the general that was leading the Russian efforts in Syria is now leading the Russian efforts in Ukraine. And it's why I think it's so important that the U.S. Works with the ICC to make sure that we are collecting evidence of war crimes and that the U.S. officially joins the ICC as a party so that we can make sure that Putin is held accountable for these atrocities that we're seeing.
If it is confirmed, and as you noted, it's not confirmed yet that the Russians are using chemical weapons there, but how would it change what the United States is doing vis-a-vis Ukraine? Would it increase, or how would it increase the U.S. cooperation or aid?
President Biden has been very clear that we will respond proportionally to attack using chemical weapons. We will continue supporting the Ukrainians with the tools they need to protect themselves and their civilians. It's why I actually think this S-300 system that Slovakia has sent is so important, because that's one of the delivery systems you could use to deliver chemical weapons. The S-300 will be able to protect against that. And I think we'll probably see additional sanctions and more accountability for Putin now. And as I said, making sure that we're working with the ICC so that there's true accountability down the road as well.
Additional sanctions, but the sanctions, frankly, if he's using chemical weapons, hasn't stopped him to this point. Certainly in Syria, he felt no compunction to stop there. What about the MiGs? I mean, if they're using chemical weapons, why not make sure that the Ukrainians are getting warplanes that they've asked for to fight the Russians?
Well, I think the most important thing we can do right now is make sure that we're giving the Ukrainians the kinds of weapons that will be most effective. So the reports I've seen, if they are true in Mariupol, is that these chemical weapons were delivered by drone, which means that a MiG, an airplane, would not actually be effective in stopping it. The things that are most effective are the Javelin anti-tank, the Stinger anti-aircraft, the armed drones that we see they're using from Turkey. We're working with our partners and allies to get more of those there. The S-300 system to be able to protect their skies, missile defense, and what the UK is delivering on these anti-ship. Those are the kinds of things that are most effective in protecting civilians, and that's why it's so important that we don't get focused on necessarily these big shiny objects, which we've actually seen this war has shown has been less effective. That's what the Russians have. And we get the Ukrainians what they really need to protect their civilians.
You keep bringing up the International Criminal Court, wanting the United States to change its posture toward this organization. Explain how and what difference you think that would make to what's actually happening on the ground here.
So right now, the U.S. Signed the ICC treaty, the Rome Statute, but has not ratified it. And in fact, President Bush said that we have unsigned it. And there are two laws on the books that right now prohibit the U.S. from really being able to engage with the ICC or spend any money to work with the ICC on their investigations. And so I'm working on legislation right now to try and address those legislative issues. And I've been encouraging the Biden administration to forcefully support the ICC investigation here to make sure that the U.S. can help them with collecting evidence. We know that evidence collection is an incredibly important piece of the ICC being able to do their job, and that we have specific tools like our intelligence community that will be helpful in that evidence collection, and then to make sure that we are working with the ICC on those tribunals and then working to hold accountable who they find guilty for these crimes.
If the Russians, or when the Russians, I should say, launch the full-scale assault in the east that everyone's expecting, could be large tank battles there, do the Ukrainians have what they need to push that back?
We are working tirelessly with the Ukrainians to make sure they have what they need. We have seen historic levels of security assistance go to the Ukrainians from both the U.S. and our partners and allies in Europe and around the world. I think that show of unity and show of support has been incredibly meaningful, and why we've seen that Putin has had to change course and has had to minimize what he's trying to do in Ukraine. You know, he thought he's going to be able to take over the country very quickly, and that hasn't happened because of the kinds of security assistance that we have been giving to the Ukrainians. And I think we will continue to see the incredible resilience and bravery of the Ukrainian military as we have this whole time.
Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, I do appreciate you being with us this morning. Thank you very much.
Of course.
So hours after an interview with CNN, Russia takes a Kremlin critic into custody. Plus, just in, Vladimir Putin speaking publicly. We have not heard